This is a category of an emotional vampire, the socially awkward. Uber goobers are lovable, preferably at someone else's party. You know those people at singles events who stand awkwardly in the corner, clutching a beer like it's a security blanket, completely unaware how to start a conversation? Yeah, you know the type, the ones your mom is always trying to set you up with. Mom, Stanley is so nice, why don't you give him a chance? Daughter, Mom, he's a super uber goober. He's not just awkward, he's got the social skills of a potted plant and the energy of a sock. Mom, he's just a little shy. Daughter, he brought a yo-yo to the table and played with it during dinner. I don't care that he called it his icebreaker. I cannot be the only one who gets emotionally drained from people that are socially awkward. My family seems to attract them to our dinner table very often on Friday nights. I can only handle so many conspiracy theories involving almond milk. After having one of them attend a meal at my house, I dread the next time they text me asking to come for another meal. That's such a great time. Can I come again next week? I want to reply, only if I'm not home. When we have a large group over for dinner, I'm much more inclined to say yes. It's because their social awkwardness can blend into the background noise of normal conversation. With enough people around, they become more of a footnote than the main event. I'll usually seat them at the far end of the table, safely out of range for my wife and me. However, if it's a more intimate meal, I politely let them know we're keeping it just family that week. This is my diplomatic way of saying I need one dinner where I don't have to explain sarcasm or endure a 20-minute story about the cost of printer ink. You can figure out pretty easily if someone is draining your emotional energy. When they leave the house, you feel a sense of relief and happiness. It is as if you feel a weight lifted off your back. I'm not insinuating that you should shun them from your social events. You just need to be aware so you can mentally prepare for them. These folks are everywhere. If someone insists they don't have any socially awkward people in their life, let's be honest, it probably means they're the socially awkward one and just haven't figured it out yet. If you've ever been to a singles event, you probably noticed the number of socially awkward men far outweighs the number of socially awkward women. And I'm sure plenty of women can back me up on this. It's not just anecdotal, there's data behind it. Males are diagnosed with Asperger's, now part of the autism spectrum, about 4 times more than females. So yes, that guy nervously clinging to the snack table with stains on his shirt and talking nonstop about black holes, statistically, he checks out. I'm not suggesting that all socially awkward people have Asperger's. It's just like someone can have narcissistic tendencies without having full-blown NPD. People can display traits commonly associated with autism spectrum disorder, including Asperger's, without ever receiving a diagnosis. It's a spectrum for a reason, and many individuals fall somewhere along it without even realizing it. Many of these men have no idea they're on the spectrum. While there may not be extensive data on this, I'd be willing to bet that a significant number of single men in their 40s and 50s would meet the criteria for some sort of social or communication disorder, diagnosed or not. They're not necessarily bad people, just socially unaware. And that lack of self-awareness is often what keeps them single. I mean, I'm thinking about all the people in my life that drain me of energy like this. Just like I tell men they can train themselves to become better listeners and remind women they can choose to find something to respect in their husbands, a socially awkward person can absolutely be coaxed out of being a full-blown weirdo in public. I hate to say weirdo, but it's true. Awkward isn't permanent. It's just unrefined social muscle, and like anything else, it can be strengthened with a little awareness. Practice and maybe some gently saying, hey, maybe don't open your conversations with your top 10 Dungeons and Dragons games of all time. I had a dinner once that inspired me to create a class called From Swipe Right to Wedding Night, How to Make Yourself Irresistibly Marriageable. Now, maybe you'll read the book version one day, but before we get to becoming marriage material, let's talk about something just as important, how to handle awkward people without losing your appetite. Socially awkward people can be absolutely brilliant. In fact, many of them used to hang out together in the high school computer club. These are the ones who were not so lovingly called geeks, nerds, and propeller heads. Back then, no one from this cool crowd wanted to sit with them at lunch. Now those same guys are called Sergey Brin, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk. Turns out the kids no one wanted to talk to are now the adults everyone wants to talk to. There are many flavors of socially awkward. One of the most common is the know-it-all. This is the person who has an answer for everything, even when no one's asking. On the surface, they might seem brilliant, but remember, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. The know-it-all often blurs that line. They can impress people who aren't familiar with this particular brand of awkwardness, but beneath the surface, many are simply overcompensating. Interestingly, while some are generally intelligent, others may be masking learning disabilities or social struggles by clinging to useless facts. There are many personality traits that can clue you into whether someone is on the autism spectrum, including ones previously associated with Asperger's. I'm only going to list the ones that I find easy to recognize. Has a hard time connecting to people in social situations, difficulty understanding social clues, difficulty in understanding sarcasm and jokes. This is the easy one. Clumsy and awkward, and has emotional constipation, which means they're lacking in emotional availability. There's a valuable skill that socially awkward people are missing that could make interaction with them enjoyable and often effort-free. Psychologist Robert Sternberg calls it practical intelligence, one of the 3 types of intelligence he identifies, the other 2 being analytical and creative. While analytical and creative intelligence are largely innate, practical intelligence is a skill you can develop. It's about knowing when and how to say things, understanding the nuances of situations, and responding thoughtfully. This type of intelligence helps you read situations accurately and have the social savvy to understand what you should and shouldn't say to other people. Another way of saying it, using the skill will help you to not be a super, uber, goober. Unfortunately, many socially awkward people do not recognize this, or if they do not want to put in the effort to learn skills to act like a human being that does not have emotional constipation. A case study. I had a student who would often come over for meals. He was kind, soft-spoken, and always polite. Over time, I noticed he would ask the same exact questions during every visit. How's the family? How's your wife? How's your son? At first, I didn't think much of it, but eventually it clicked. He was likely on the spectrum. I wouldn't be surprised if a therapist had coaxed him to ask those specific questions as a way to engage socially. Is he my favorite dinner guest? Not exactly, but he's also not an emotional vampire. He's self-aware, respectful, and clearly doing the work to function well in social situations. And that effort earns a lot of credit in my book. That experience taught me a valuable lesson. When someone is aware of their social awkwardness and makes the effort to compensate for it, they can navigate social situations without draining others. Self-awareness combined with intentional effort can make even the most awkward person not only bearable, but even enjoyable to be around. Another case study. We had another frequent guest at our dinner table who on his very first visit told me he had Asperger's. He had a great voice and loved to sing, crack corny jokes, and was always cheerful and eager to help clean up after dinner. Looking back, I realized that if he hadn't told me about his diagnosis up front, I might have not been as patient, especially with the endless stream of dad-level jokes. But knowing that where he was coming from gave me the perspective to appreciate his quirks rather than be irritated by them. That's why I believe it's important for anyone who thinks they might be on the spectrum to seek support. With the right guidance, they can learn how to navigate social situations more smoothly and compensate for the areas where they may struggle. This particular guest ended up becoming one of my favorites. And honestly, I don't think I would have appreciated his presence if he hadn't been upfront about his condition. And his honesty gave me the context I needed to understand and enjoy him for who he truly is. Case study. I met a man in one of my classes who was in his 40s, and from my perspective, he could use some help. He'd need a lot of help. You can sometimes tell right away when someone is socially awkward, not just by their appearance, but by their overall demeanor. He was one of those individuals who struggled in social situations. He confided in me about his difficulty in getting a second date, and I empathized with his frustration. So I agreed to help. Unfortunately, as we worked together, his challenge proved to be even more deeper than I originally realized. When we met for coffee, I noticed that he couldn't hold eye contact, constantly looking away as if searching into his mind for what to say next. He was doing this the whole time, and then not even looking at me. It was like when someone giving a speech loses focus and glances upward to find their words. Kind of like looking into the brain, except he did it nonstop. barely maintaining eye contact for more than a few seconds. I asked if he was aware of this habit, and he admitted he was, but he had never attempted to do anything about it. I explained that on a date, if you can't keep eye contact with a woman, she's going to think you're nuts and unlikely to get a second chance. He seemed unaware of this, that this was an issue, and unfortunately, he did nothing about it and is still having the same issues. Can you imagine going to have coffee with the guy and he's like looking away from you the whole time? You're gonna think he's nuts. This guy is nuts, but he's not willing to do anything about it. Sometimes the issue is so deeply ingrained that it takes an enormous amount of counseling just to bring them close to dateable or normal. Super uber goobers tend to stick together, mostly because no one else wants to hang out with them, except other socially awkward people. They'll often say other people are snobbish or stuck up, and maybe there's a little bit of truth to that. The reality is, being around socially awkward people can be emotionally exhausting. Many of them unintentionally drain those around them, not out of malice, but because navigating a conversation with them feels like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with one hand. I've always wondered if it's possible that I am the weirdo and everyone else that I consider to be awkward are the normal ones. That is just something to think about. This is one of the categories of emotional vampires. My book, Emotional Vampires: How to Protect Your Happiness from People That Suck Yours Dry. I'm Coach Ratner. See you next time.